He was the king of cocaine. The man who ruled with both generosity and terror, controlling a multi-billion-dollar drug empire that reshaped the face of Colombia and sent shockwaves across the globe. But who was Pablo Escobar? This is the story of the rise and fall of Pablo Escobar, the world's most infamous drug lord. Welcome to a journey into the mind of a man who built an empire on crime and power, only to see it all crumble beneath him. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born on December 1, 1949, in the small town of Rio Negro, Colombia. His father was a farmer, and his mother a school teacher, raising Escobar and his siblings in modest surroundings. But Pablo had bigger dreams. From a young age, he showed a natural talent for hustling. He started small, stealing tombstones, smuggling contraband, and selling fake lottery tickets. In the 1970s, Medellín was on the verge of becoming the epicenter of one of the most powerful criminal networks in the world. It was during this time that Escobar's ambitions led him into the burgeoning cocaine trade. What started as a small operation soon exploded into an international business. By the mid-1970s, Pablo Escobar had partnered with other prominent drug traffickers, creating the Medellín Cartel. The cartel didn't just smuggle cocaine, it industrialized it. They set up a sophisticated network of labs in the jungle, developing production techniques that allowed them to process and export cocaine on a massive scale. At its peak, the Medellín cartel controlled nearly 80% of the world's cocaine supply, making Escobar one of the wealthiest men on earth. His fortune grew to an estimated $30 billion. But with wealth came violence, and Escobar wasn't afraid to eliminate anyone who stood in his way. Escobar's wealth allowed him to build an empire not just of drugs but of influence. He used his fortune to gain political power, becoming a congressman in Colombia. At the same time, he was building a Robin Hood image by funding hospitals, schools, and soccer fields for the poor. But behind the facade of philanthropy was a ruthless criminal who controlled his empire with terror. Escobar employed a plata o plomo policy, silver or lead. This meant you either took his bribe, or you faced a bullet. Judges, police officers, politicians, and journalists who opposed him often ended up dead. His cartel was responsible for the deaths of thousands, including the infamous bombing of Avianca Flight 203, which killed 110 people. As Escobar's power grew, so did the efforts to bring him down. The Colombian government, under pressure from the United States, launched an all-out war on Escobar and the Medellín cartel. Special forces, paramilitary groups, and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, (D) relentlessly pursued him. But Escobar, with his vast resources, managed to evade capture for years. Escobar's criminal empire was bleeding Colombia dry. The nation had become synonymous with drug cartels and violence. The government's fight against him seemed like a never-ending battle, but cracks were beginning to show in his armor. In a bizarre turn of events, in 1991, Escobar struck a deal with the Colombian government to avoid extradition to the United States. He agreed to surrender, but only if he could build and serve his time in his own prison, known as La Catedral. Far from a penitentiary, it was more like a personal palace. But Escobar's arrogance would be his undoing. His continued criminal activities while in La Catedral became too much for the government to ignore. In 1992, they attempted to move him to a real prison, but Escobar escaped. This marked the beginning of his final days. For over a year, Escobar was on the run, hiding in safe houses and constantly moving to avoid capture. The Colombian National Police, with help from U.S. Special Forces, tracked him relentlessly. Finally, on December 2, 1993, Escobar was found hiding in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellín. After a brief shootout, Pablo Escobar was shot and killed on a rooftop while attempting to flee. His death marked the end of the Medellín cartel and brought a sense of relief to a country that had been gripped by fear for over a decade. While Pablo Escobar is dead, his legacy endures. Colombia continues to deal with the fallout of the drug wars that he played a key role in igniting. Today, Escobar remains a figure of fascination, depicted in numerous films, television shows, and books. But beyond the legend is a man who left a trail of destruction and whose impact will be felt for generations. Pablo Escobar's story is a lesson in the dangers of power and ambition unchecked. His rise to the top of the drug world was swift, but his fall was inevitable. He left behind a legacy of violence, but also a cautionary